And like I said, I have to choose that there is something greater than just me, than us. Otherwise, we're at the epitome. We're at the top of the mountain. If it all comes down to just us, we're there. Why continue to strive and push forward and become someone greater if we're there already? Good morning and welcome to another episode of Mindset Monday. And I think we're going to start changing the overall name of our Monday gathering here, right? I think Mindset Mastery fits it more with what we're trying to accomplish every week. So that's something that I think we're going to be changing it to, Mindset Mastery. It just kind of popped in my mind right now because it goes beyond just a Monday thing. It's about mastering the thoughts, mastering, our own intentions, and realizing that the mindset needs to be recalibrated on a daily basis. You can have a beautiful day, you can have a great day, a productive day, and then all of a sudden things just kind of goes the other way, right? Within seconds. And that's the reality of life. That's the reality of running a business and being able to go back to our habits, to our patterns of what it takes to win is vital. And with me, one of the major things that has pushed me and propelled me forward is my ability to have faith. And I want to warn you, I don't want to go into this conversation thinking that I'm imposing any of my beliefs, but I do want to challenge, maybe your mind. And maybe you're on the same wavelength as I am, and this will be just a great conversation. But I think faith and realizing what faith can do for you and setting a framework for your life is vital to getting what you want. It's realizing that maybe there is something greater than you during those dark moments. And I'll explain here in just a second. But first, I want to go ahead and define what faith means, okay? And I went online and I looked on Webster's dictionary, and there are two definitions for faith. One is the complete trust or confidence in someone or something. Two, it's a strong belief in God or the doctrines of religion, based on a spiritual apprehension rather than proof. And it goes on to say, one, a sub-definition, a system of religious belief, and two, a strongly held belief or theory or a sense of conviction. So as we get into this conversation, one of the things that stuck out to me from the very beginning was, complete trust or confidence in someone or something. And I started looking into other dictionaries of where faith can maybe define it a little differently in regards to having faith in ourselves, right? Faith can be a foundation of what we feel we can be able to accomplish, right? But it seems like every definition that I read had to do with something or someone else, right? Having faith in someone else and not necessarily in self. I would love to have read, complete trust in self, but I didn't get that. Now we're going to talk about two different things in general here: faith in self and also faith in something greater. But first, I want to go ahead and kind of dial it down. What is faith, right? Like for me, faith gives me a framework to be good. Let me repeat that. Faith gives me a framework to be good, to do good, to have a minimum standard of what I realize life should be, on how I should treat other people, how I should come into my marriage, how I should just operate in general, right? It gives me a framework. It allows me to show compassion and, of course, to treat people the right way. Now, faith is believing that whatever you're going after will happen, will eventually occur, especially when there is no signs that it will turn your way. Now, the darkest moments in my life have been when there's been a pattern of not having faith, not having that framework, not either believing in myself or feeling that there's something greater watching over me. The darkest moments in my life was when I had a lack thereof, when there was no basis or foundation for my marriage, for my vows, right? The things that I promised my spouse, that how I would approach this marriage. I lost faith in that. I had no faith. There was no framework. There was nothing out there bigger than me realizing that I was outside of those parameters. And for many of us, it also has to do with, like for me, it was also drinking, right? I had no parameters of what was good for my body and what wasn't. Because when you're in this dark moment, sometimes we lose the lack of faith in ourselves. And that's why we're stuck in those dark moments. As my business was imploding, we owed millions of dollars to our debtors, right? We were refusing to answer our phone because we knew who was on the other line. Creditors, right? About payment when we didn't have any income coming in. And realizing, one of the things that I realized is that I had to keep a positive mindset. I had to realize that, hey, in those moments, I may have not been good enough to solve my problems. So when I was in those dark moments with my marriage, with my business, I genuinely thought I wasn't good enough. And this topic of conversation is what happens if you don't have faith? Because for the most part, I think we all believe that we can accomplish certain things in our lives. And that's fine. That's great. That's having faith in self. But what happens when you're in those dark moments? Understand that all of us are genuinely believing that the problem is greater than us. That's why we're stuck in those dark moments, whether it's happening with our marriage, health issues, or with our business. There's something within us that has lost faith in ourselves. And that's why I wanted to bring up this topic. Because if you only have faith in yourself, I'm telling you, it'll get you far. It'll get you very far. You'll live an accomplished life. But the reason we're stuck in those dark moments, the reason we can't solve our own problems, and we get to this place of desperation, is because having faith in ourselves had its limitations. And I'm not saying it is a faulty trait of yours or mine. I'm not saying that at all. What I'm saying is if we don't believe that there's something greater than us during those dark moments, it's really tough to get out. Because again, we're in this place where we don't think that we can solve those issues, and that's why we're having those thoughts. As I was in those dark places in all aspects of my life, where dysfunction just ruled my life, I had to see something greater. I had to have an accountability partner. And believing that there's something greater than me allowed me to believe, allowed me to think of positivity and realizing that it could only be temporary. Otherwise, I would be stuck in that place. And for some, like I was, will be stuck in that place for years to come. And if I look back on my darkest moments, I failed to believe that there was something or someone greater than me. And I refused to operate life thinking I am the epitome of solutions. I cannot. I am not the peak of that. I have to really believe whether it's truth or not. I have to believe that there's someone greater than me watching over me and realizing that there's guidelines that I have to live by on how I show up as a father, as a human being, as a businessman. That's what drives me. Understanding that faith is simply my accountability partner to do good, to be good, to show up powerfully. Because when you don't believe that, when you're in those dark moments, accountability goes out the window. We start doing more and more dysfunctional things. And it drives dysfunction, vices, infidelity maybe, despair and dysfunction within the household, and lack of finances or money creating even a bigger mess. In those dark moments, I lost faith. In those dark moments, I stopped believing that there was something greater setting that framework for me. And it just didn't happen overnight. Most things don't happen overnight. It takes patterns and habits of good behaviors or bad ones, or dysfunctional ones, functional and dysfunctional. When we're in those dark moments and we're there for long periods of times, a part of me feels like we lost faith in something greater than us. And I'll be the first one to tell you, everything I have in my life was because of the faith I have in myself. Absolutely. I did the work. I woke up every day. But I also realize that there's something greater watching over me as well, reminded me on how to be that good person, on how to show up powerfully. I'd be lying to you if I say it was all me. I've been in too many instances, including my own, fighting for my own life to believe that there's not something greater out there. And maybe it's just a simple belief, but that belief drives me. That belief gets me up in the morning. And that belief gives me positive thoughts, which motivates me. So I'm telling you, yes, you have to do the work, and you have to have a strong conviction of faith in yourself. And you reinforce those convictions by doing the right things. You will never have that full faith in yourself if you continue to do the dysfunctional things that slow you down. So do the right things, having faith in self, and being guided by something greater, whatever you choose it is. And like I said, I have to choose that there is something greater than just me, than us. Otherwise, we're at the epitome. We're at the top of the mountain. If it all comes down to just us, we're there. Why continue to strive and push forward and become someone greater if we're there already? We understand that there's always improvements. That's why. And there's something greater, someone greater looking after you. Because in those dark moments, when you thought you couldn't move forward, when you were overwhelmed with those feelings, when life just got so tough, if you look back, it was faith that there was something greater watching over you. And then it was reinforced by the fact that you have faith in yourself. Those dark moments in my life were driven by just that. They were created by the lack thereof, not realizing that I was off the path of that framework of doing good and being good and doing the right things. So I constantly remind myself that there's someone watching, big brother of sorts, an accountability partner that's much greater, that I can't fully comprehend. But I know there's been intervention a number of times in my own life. For some, it could be sheer coincidence. But for me, you'll never convince me otherwise. And I think we can all have a story and an example of where something like that happened similar to you in your life or your family, where it wasn't explainable. And one of the things that I realized is like, hey, listen, I can't just believe there is something greater to give me that framework when times are tough, when it's dark. I refuse to do that. Why only believe that when things are not going your way? I had to change that pattern within myself and within my family. Because having faith reignited our marriage. Knowing that there's someone greater within me, but understanding that it still comes down to me. Faith made it possible of the impossible. How was I able to get out of that debt, settle all my lawsuits, get everything squared away with the IRS and my creditors in 3.5 years? How was I able to do that? When logically, it didn't make sense. Based on the income I was making and based on what I owed and what I was being sued for. Faith made the impossible possible. And here's the thing. I no longer look for faith when it's dark. And I want you to maybe change those behaviors about your patterns. And maybe you're along the same wavelength. I'm not here to preach. I'm not here to tell you how. If you do that now, that's great. Beautiful. We're on the same page. And you know things will always turn out your way. But what I'm saying for those that faith in something greater than just you, whatever that may be. I'm not talking about religion here. And if you only tap into that source when things are tough, I want you to change those patterns and consider that there is a more effective way so that your dark moments are not so dark. They're not so debilitating. They're not so painful. Faith with me, it happens every single day. The power in myself, the faith in myself, and the faith in something greater is a part of my life every single day, regardless if I'm on fire, regardless if everything's going my way. That's when I show appreciation. I show appreciation all the time. Or when I'm in those dark moments, caught up in my own thoughts, believing that the obstacle in front of me, that my objectives at hand, that my overall purpose is in question. In any situation, faith is present in my life. And I think that's the way we have to get up every single day. Appreciating of what we have, that's faith. And realizing it's going to get better, that's faith. Understanding that we may not have everything now, but the ability to get up with a smile, that's faith. Faith is going to take you exactly where you want to go. But faith alone in something greater will not. That's called a wish. That's called a miracle. Your job is to live up to your end of the bargain, which is to do the right things for yourself, to live within integrity, to stop lying. Those are your responsibilities. Because you can't ask for something greater to take you out if you're unwilling to do the small things for yourself. That's where a lot of people lose faith, because they're unwilling to do their end of the bargain. They feel entitled. You have to do the right thing and live the right ways. So I challenge you to that. Have that as a basis for yourself. It's a foundation. And I promise you, you'll go far. Just realizing that whatever you're going through is just temporary. Any tough moment is just temporary. Not having the finances you want, the money you want, is just temporary. But it will not change until you live up to your end of the bargain. And you know what those responsibilities are. But faith is simply realizing, believing that good things will happen to you. And it's only a matter of time before they turn for you. Because again, when you're in that dark place, simply having faith in ourselves, it's just not good enough at that moment. And maybe, just maybe, believing that you have favor, that there is a lesson to be learned, that you're going through this for a reason, allows you to get up and get after it again. So I want to redefine what faith is here. We're making our own definition here. And if you want to add to it, please do. It's not just for me. But for me, faith is complete trust or confidence in oneself. 2, a strong belief to set a framework for our lives and a guideline that is greater than we understand. That's the definition. I didn't bring up religion. I didn't bring up someone else or something else. I simply brought up oneself and something far greater that sometimes is just difficult to understand. My life is radically different because of that. I did the work, but along the way, I had something greater than me guiding me and reminding me and shining the light when I couldn't see anything in front of me. So let's operate from that place, wherever you're at. It's amazing how life just becomes pure fire because you're doing the right things. All right. And for everyone that joined us today, I want to thank you. And some of you, it's been a while since you've been here with us. And I want to remind you to continue to re-engage. That's the point of this environment. You can try to operate this and fight alone. But when you have an army behind you, it makes things possible. So again, thank you for joining me for another Mindset Monday. And I will talk to you soon. Have a great day, everyone. Bye now.